The U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to take up a case involving admissions policies at Harvard and UNC Chapel Hill. Opponents say those policies use race in an unconstitutional way. They say Asian American applicants to both schools are among those hurt most by these policies. One man who has been following the issue very closely is Kenny Xu. He is author of the book An Inconvenient Minority and also president of the group Color Us United. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So first of all, we're going to get into the background of your involvement in watching this issue. But first, your reaction to knowing that the Supreme Court is taking up this case.
I think this is great. I think this is the beginning of the end of the woke movement. The movement is premised off of the allegations that America is a racist country. Because of that, we need to have policies like race preferences to give unmerited treatment towards people of certain races, obviously meaning you would need to exclude higher qualified people of non-preferred races. And this is exactly what Harvard has been doing for the past 35 years, as I recount in my book, An Inconvenient Minority. Harvard has been discriminating against the highest achieving students in our nation solely because they're Asian or Asian American. In fact, an Asian American has to score 440 points higher on the SAT to have the same chance of admission as a black person, 150 points higher as a white person. So this case, I think, is going to be the beginning of the end of using this systemic racism argument to try to push for policies that are actually racist.
And this is not just Harvard that's going to be considered, but also UNC Chapel Hill. I know you haven't followed that case as closely as the Harvard case, but many of the similar arguments, the same group of plaintiffs, right?
Exactly, and I have been following both of these cases. And in both of these cases, the university comes up, whether Harvard, UNC Chapel Hill, or really all of the Ivy League and elite universities right now are doing this. They create some sort of argument for diversity. They say, we need diversity in college admissions or something like that. And then they use that as an excuse to heavily discriminate against Asian American applicants because they don't want their universities to become homogenous. In fact, if Harvard didn't discriminate against Asian Americans would probably make up about 40 to 43% of Harvard University based on academics, based on the superior academic quality of Asian Americans. But they see Asian Americans as too homogenous. They rate them lowest on personalities. When in reality, Asian Americans, there's so many diversities of Asian Americans. Asia is a continent of 3-point-something billion people. And so what right do you have to say that this entire group of people is faceless, homogenous, and low personality? They don't. And so this is why I'm opposed to their use of this diversity standard to institute a racial quota system on their university.
Arguments in favor of these policies tend to suggest, one, that there is a need for diversity among the college campus student body, and also that America has such a long history of discriminating against African Americans that proactive steps need to be taken to help those students who are trying to get the same leg up that others have had for years and years. Why is the type of policy that Harvard and UNC Chapel Hill have in place not the way to do this?
Yeah, so I'll answer the second question first. The second question is about proactive steps to help specifically African Americans, but racial preferences don't actually specifically help African Americans. In fact, they hurt their chances of success in many cases, because what happens is when you admit an African American candidate who is actually less qualified, objectively qualified, into a field as rigorous and a college as rigorous as Harvard, they're actually going to be a higher likelihood to graduate at the bottom of their class, higher likelihood of depression, lower likelihood to graduate. And actually that student could have gone to a university that actually was built to support students of that similar caliber and then transfer to Harvard or Yale on merit at some other point in time. So you're actually depriving these students of the ability to get the education at the level that they're at. And that's the tragic part of all of this. that's going on is that you're not even helping the students that you purport to help by doing these race preference policies.
You mentioned you've written a book on this topic, An Inconvenient Minority, and since the book you've also become involved with this group, Color Us United. Tell us what that group is all about and how it is working on these issues.
So Color Us United is a group that is dedicated to advocating for a race-blind America. You can go to colorusunited.org to find out more. But basically, we are opposed to any policy made by any institution, whether Harvard, Fortune 500 corporations, or even large nonprofits like the Salvation Army. We're opposed to any organization that attempts to divide people on the basis of race and say one race is privileged and another race is oppressed and try to institute policies specifically based on race. So our first target was the Salvation Army at the end of 2021 when we revealed those explosive documents, the Salvation Army peddling critical race theory within their ranks, asking their members to repent for racism specifically, when these are the least racist people that you could ever imagine. They're going out and helping inner city communities, these Salvation Army officers, and you accuse them of being racist. So we are opposed to any policy that tries to unfairly label America or other people as a racist nation or people. And that's what we're going to continue doing, and that involves my work with Harvard University as well.
Getting back to the case at hand that's now going to the Supreme Court, we know that the UNC Chapel Hill case, the plaintiffs lost at the trial court level. As the case has been the Harvard case has been moving through the court process, there have been some setbacks as well. Are you hopeful that the Supreme Court is going to take a different view than the other levels of the court system have?
I am. And I'm actually excited about the Supreme Court taking this up, because the fact that the Supreme Court took up this case means that there are enough justices that are interested in the central constitutional question at stake. The district court and the appeals court of Harvard, which ruled for Harvard, was bound by the old constitutional precedent from the Regents of California versus Bakke case that said that universities could use race in admissions so long as it is tailored for a diversity standard. But now the Supreme Court has an opportunity to review its own precedent. Remember, only the Supreme Court can do that. So whereas the other courts were forced to adhere to the Supreme Court precedent, the Supreme Court has the opportunity to overturn its previous precedent, and I am confident that they will with this new case, Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard, and Students for Fair Admissions versus UNC.
What is it about the court and the way it's made up now and what its justices have said that convince you that perhaps this is going to go in another direction now?
The central question that the Supreme Court dealt with in previous affirmative action cases that led them to eventually supporting the institution's racial preferences policy is they were dealing with this idea that we need a diverse student body, that a diverse student body is what can is the reason why universities are allowed to discriminate on race. But the Students for Fair Admissions case shows the logical emptiness of that diverse standard, because now to say we need a diverse student body, now are you not only discriminating against white people, but you're discriminating against another minority, Asian Americans, who got to where they are in America, by the way, through hard work, through a commitment to merit-based thinking. It's no secret why Asian Americans are successful academically in this country. And it has nothing to do with their race. It has to do with their culture. The fact that Asian Americans study twice as many hours as the average American. The fact that they do less drugs, they have less crime, they have stronger focuses on education, stronger two-parent families, cultural values that anybody of any race can emulate. And we should be emulating the voices and the talents of these Asian Americans. Instead, Harvard chooses to discriminate against them. So there is a logical emptiness that I think the Supreme Court is finally able to tackle to its hilt. And I think that's what they're going to do with this case.
Well, the Supreme Court has taken up these cases, and we know that one person who's going to be watching very closely is Kenny Xu, author of the book An Inconvenient Minority and president of the group Color Us United. If people want to learn more about what you're working on, what's the best way for them to find it?
You should go to colorusunited.org and sign up. Sign up because we speak for the people who can't speak for themselves, who are chained by their Fortune 500 companies to not speak out against their DEI ideology. We will be your voice. So send us tips and sign up at colorusunited.org. And also buy my book, An Inconvenient Minority, The Attack on Asian American Excellence in the Fight for Meritocracy. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever books are sold.
Kenny, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we thank you once again for watching.